You're listening to CinemaJaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from various places in America. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye the Movie Guy, and sitting alongside us is Fill Me In Phil.
Hello.
This week on CinemaJaw, Matt, we have what we like to call a Review-O-Rama.
Review-O-Rama.
This is when we have 3 or more reviews. What reviews do we have this week?
We have Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Extraction 2, and No Hard Feelings. Great little batch of films.
This is going to be very exciting to talk about these films. Unfortunately, due to family interference, let's call it, Matt was not able to see Dial of Destiny yet. So I got to do that review solo.
I'm sure Heather will really appreciate you calling her girls' night family interference.
That's what we call it here on CinemaJaw.
Family interference. Yeah, my wife had something to do. Imagine that.
But we are going to talk about No Hard Feelings, which is why we're celebrating Jennifer Lawrence Month, which is the last week we are celebrating the great Jennifer Lawrence. No guest this week. Matt, you are up in Michigan as we record, so we're not in our CinemaJaw studio. No guest. We are going to play Stump the Kubinski this week. The topic in honor of Indy Jones is Harrison Ford movie trivia.
I'm ready. And just so you know, speaking of being in Michigan, hanging out with my sister, she brought it up again. She really wants to pit us against one another in trivia and play host.
Oh, nice. That is going to go down then at some point.
This is her CinemaJaw fantasy. We have to fulfill it.
It's just I don't want another Kubinski involved in this, but
well, like I mentioned,
if it has to happen, it has to happen.
Technically, she's not a Kubinski.
Technically,
she's been married.
Anymore.
Changed her name. Right.
Nay Kubinski.
An ex Kubinski.
Well, let's kick things off with a Jennifer Lawrence fact. We've been having some great ones this month. Let's see what Phil has for us this week.
Yes. This is something that who was it? One of the Jawheads had written in when we had asked about best Jennifer Lawrence performances. I'm pretty sure. But before becoming an actress, Jennifer Lawrence kicked off her career in media and in Hollywood by starring on promotional commercials for the MTV reality show My Super Sweet 16.
Yes.
And the program itself was tailored around 16-year-olds getting birthdays that they quite frankly do not deserve. And emphasis on 16-year-olds. A little dirty secret that we were able to look up, a Hollywood inside scoop, is that Jennifer was only 14 at the time. So we've been lied to. These atrocities must stop.
What's odd is normally it's high school students, especially in movies, it's older kids playing high school students. In this case, it was a 14-year-old acting as a 16-year-old.
There's something.
Yes, you're correct.
There's something a little creepy about that, honestly.
It really is.
Yeah.
Why? I feel like it's weirder for a grown adult to play someone in high school.
It's I don't know. The whole show is kind of gross and materialistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can say I never seen My Sweet 16 or whatever it's called, Super 16.
I've listen. There were evenings back in the day when we actually watched television and we didn't have YouTube and stuff, where I would just have MTV on. And I don't think I've ever watched an episode, but I've definitely seen the commercials. Don't remember Jennifer Lawrence specifically, but the show looked like it wasn't made for me. I was already in my 20s and...
Of course.
Well, dude, you were watching MTV in your 20s, weren't you?
Yeah, I know. But of course, in your 20s, you don't want to watch something about My Super Sweet 16 or whatever the hell it's called.
They were trying to capture a younger demographic. Didn't work out so well for MTV. They're off the air.
They are off the air.
They are off the air. The Dead Kennedy song finally came true. MTV, get off the air.
But we do still have the MTV Music Awards that seem to be an important thing, so...
The VMAs, yeah.
Yeah, the VMAs. Those still roll on.
They do. And hey, music videos do lead to the discovery of some amazing filmmakers. Spike Lee, for example. Spike Jonze, pardon me.
Spike Jonze,
Yes.
Spike Jonze.
Yeah, so I'm glad that continues.
Absolutely. Well, that was our last Jennifer Lawrence fact, and we were celebrating her this month because she has a new raunchy comedy out entitled No Hard Feelings.
Yes, and I'm going to admit it right here in the intro, Ryan. I am a Jennifer Lawrence fan. Not because she's a beauty, even though she is, not because she's an award winner, even though she is. She just feels down to earth. We've been discussing this all month. Whether that quality is genuinely real or meticulously manicured, it's irrelevant. I'm a fan because I can imagine being her friend, and that's so rare. So when I saw the trailer for No Hard Feelings a while back, I was very intrigued. This is a different type of role for Jennifer. True, she has dipped her toes into comedy more than once, but here she is in a broad comedy in the tone of a film whose title should begin with the word bad, as in Bad Santa or Bad Teacher. Reprehensible people comedy, to coin a genre. What an interesting role for Lawrence to take, and a risky one. Plus, the trailer made me laugh out loud. But would those be the only laughs? Ryan and I hit the theater to find out.
I'm an Uber driver and I don't have a car.
Come on up.
His parents said if I, quote, date their son, they'd give me a Buick Regal.
You won't even rent your house out, but now you're gonna rent out your badge?
You have a Roadrunner tattoo covering your entire back. I don't think you should tell anybody what to do with their body.
Nope.
All right, Ryan, let's start out with the synopsis. On the brink of losing her home, Maddie, played by Lawrence, finds an intriguing job listing. Helicopter parents looking for someone to bring their introverted 19-year-old son out of his shell before college. She has one summer to make him a man or die trying. Maddie promises to date his brains out. Wackiness ensues. What I want to start off asking you is, Ryan, does this concept work? Helicopter parents hire a woman to sleep with their son.
Well, it's based on a true story. The Craigslist ad. Yes, the Craigslist ad is real. That is where the genesis of this script came from.
Wow, what an interesting fact. I did not know that.
True story. And there's a line in the movie about helicopter parents willing to do anything for the kids, that they're even willing to F them themselves if they had to. And obviously that's played for laughs. I had no problem believing in the premise. It worked for me. As for Lawrence taking on this risque role, as you call it, loved it. I don't want to see the raunchy comedy go away. I also want to point out the chemistry she had with Andrew Barth Feldman. The whole movie rests on their chemistry. This dorky kid and this very sexy and sex-positive character that Lawrence plays have to sort of collide and then have a bond, and that worked for me.
She's sexy in a clumsy way, right? She's not like a femme fatale or something like that. She's a goof.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you.
Yeah, her character in general is just a goof and like somewhat. I mean, obviously she has issues with intimacy and commitment, and she's kind of goofy in general, but she's trying to act sexy in the movie.
Right, which is what makes it funny. She's
Right.
that she's trying to be sexy.
She's so over the top sexy.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I thought it was a good turn for her. And so we mentioned the helicopter parents, and I think this is actually what most people will walk away from this movie thinking about. What's up with Gen Z? And have we really gotten to this point with helicopter parenting? Like, is this you did not find the concept far-fetched?
Right. I did not. And as far as the subtext goes of the movie, where I would actually concentrate on, not so much the parents and Gen Z, but Gen Z and the millennials is where I think the subtext is at. And it's interesting today. Before we hit record, I was going over to see how the Rotten Tomato scores are on this, because, spoiler alert, I'm positive on this one, but I wasn't sure where fellow critics were going to land overall, you know? So
right.
I was going through Rotten Tomatoes, and I pulled a quote that I found very interesting from a critic, Leslie Felprin, on Rotten Tomatoes. And the quote is this: "It's one of the first comedies to foreground the millennials versus Gen Z culture clash, contrasting Maddie's sex-positive but callow confidence with Percy's intense fragility." Now, I myself like laughing at millennials, and I think this was one of the first times I was able to here.
So what you're saying is, as a bitter old Gen Xer, you just like the fact that the two generations after you are now fighting each other,
Right.
that the millennials are coming of age. They're old now.
And we're going to get to this when we talk about, break down a couple of scenes, but there's a party scene in here where Jennifer Lawrence has to go to this party and it's filled with millennials. And we'll discuss that a little bit more. But I think I was not expecting there to be so much subtext in a movie that I was going in thinking it was just going to be a flat out raunchy comedy.
Right.
And I was shocked that there was more substance to this. It was trying to say something. I'm not going to go so far as to say it made some, unbelievable statement, or the subtext is the reason why you want to see the movie. You want to see it for the comedy. But I was happy that there was something else to latch onto, something to talk about. And I think it was making a point in its own way. And I think a positive point that we can talk about.
Yeah, frankly, we can talk about it if you want, but I don't know how to untangle it. Like, I don't know if there is necessarily a solution other than to just laugh at it. But there are two. Go ahead. You want to talk about it?
Well, just a little bit,
Okay.
in the sense that the film even exists. Me, you, and I believe Pfil off air had a conversation. I think we were walking when we were talking. Maybe it was after a podcast, and you were mentioning that you think the raunchy comedy is going to come back in a big way. Like the pendulum has swung one way. Everybody's so uptight, and you can't make sex jokes anymore, that it's going to eventually swing back the other way, and we're going to get this
Well, I mean, it does.
revival of the raunchy comedy.
Sure.
Perhaps, but even the way this exists, the film exists, I think is in contrast to at least the vibe that the millennials are giving off.
How so?
Well, in the sense that they're uptight about making a lot of laughter, like you can't make jokes anymore about certain things without getting canceled. And this pops up in the movie. She makes a crude joke at one time, and they're like, "Say it again," and they pull out their phones like millennials do.
Those are
and
the
they
Gen
wanna-
Zers, dude. Those are the high school kids doing that.
They want to get everybody on film.
Right. But you're mixing up the
Sorry,
generation.
I'm mixing up the two. Yes,
Right.
I am mixing up the two. But the Gen Zers are pulling out their phones, and they want to film Jennifer Lawrence making this crude joke, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of it, is like that the movie even exists, I think, is a good thing.
I guess. I mean, it's so funny how true it is, because like I don't want to, I'm dancing around spoilers here, but you come to find out that the party, which seems like this rager, right? There's like a keg, there's people running around with fireworks, and you walk into any raunchy comedy from the 80s or even 90s, and you've been to this party in other movies, and then the parents are there, which is so, it's like, yeah, of course the parents are there, like it just rings true, and it's sad. It's sad. Like,
It is.
I walked away kind of down in a way, even though I had a really great time and I thought the movie was hilarious. It's like, what have we become?
Right. And I know I've talked to this. I don't have kids, but I've talked to people who do have kids, and even you, to the degree of parents hanging out with their kids so much more, and
Right.
I don't think parents realize that they're not letting the kids be free enough, and what that means ultimately on how they grow up and their experience of growing up. I grew up going out to a lake house. I'd be in a rowboat. My brother and cousin were 5 years older than me. And we would go out on a rowboat. I must have been like 8 and they were 13. We had no life preservers. We had fireworks with us. Probably stole a couple of, Ham's cold beer from my dad's 30 pack. And my brother and cousin would drink a beer each and think it was so cool. And I'd be blowing off. The parents didn't know anything. Like, this just would not happen anymore, you know?
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. And it's an interesting movie because of that.
Yeah. And not that I think I had bad parents, by the way, either. Now my cousins are at this lake house, and we joke about how they know where their kids are at all times. It's, you know.
Yeah,
I would
and
never let
we do track our kids and stuff like that. Yes, so you'll if you're a parent or anybody like a young person walking away from this movie will make you think, at least to some extent. But
so can we talk about? There's a nude scene.
Oh my
in this
God!
movie.
Okay, that's exactly where I was going next. There's two
there's
amazing
a nude,
scenes.
There's a nude fight scene in this.
Yeah,
and Jennifer Lawrence kicks butt in the nude.
She gets into a fist fight with 3 teenagers in the buff in her birthday suit, and she beats one of them with a fish. I believe they're carrying a fish, right, or something.
I didn't know what she beat the person with. I wasn't quite positive if that was a fish. I had no idea what was going on. I was laughing so hard.
And then she gets punched in the groin, which this fight scene. Okay, first of all, the fact that Jennifer Lawrence just walks into frame in the buff is a bit of a shock, you know? I mean, and then you get used to it, and then the fact that she's having a fist fight naked, and this is like a drag down fight. She's fighting 3 people. What a scene. This has got to be the fist fight of the year for me.
So the movie went for a couple of like really big laughs. This isn't the only one where it goes for absolutely outrageous comedy situations. I'm not positive they all worked. I thought this one worked rather well. There's one that's in the previews where you see
the train,
the train, Percy on the top of the car driving, and they're trying to like cross over the railroad tracks. And then there's even another wild scene with somebody else on the hood of a car. I won't spoil that one for you. So they went for some very outrageous comedy moments. I only think the nude fist fight really worked, where it hit like that, you know, everybody in the theater laughing out loud funny. The other ones were kind of like, oh my God, this is almost too bizarre. Not that I didn't laugh, but it didn't quite hit the high comedy notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. There's some stuff that didn't work for me too. Can we, speaking of Percy, talk about the man-eater scene? Because I think that's the other side of the whole Gen Z coin. How insulated they are, but they've all grown up with YouTube tutorials at their fingertips. So you talk about a song, and then the next day you see them. There's this amazing performance of Hall & Oates' Man-Eater on the piano in the prom date scene. That was kind of unexpected, and it was a really like kind of a poignant moment in the film.
It was.
I was
the
pivot,
touched.
right? Yeah.
I was touched. Hats off. We're celebrating Jennifer Lawrence this month. This is the power of Jennifer Lawrence, because yes, Percy can sing, right? He's talented, but the camera actually focuses on Lawrence's reaction to how talented he is, and she completely sells the scene, and you're drawn into the moment. And it caught me off guard. Usually, the movie on a downside is very formulaic in overall. I thought I would have normally saw this coming, that this would have been the song that he played. But when he got up to play the piano, I had no clue. Well, I didn't think he was going to sing. I thought he was just going to actually play the piano, like, you know, maybe classical music. And he goes for that song. And it was like, oh my God, right, this makes sense. And the focus then is on Jennifer, and she completely draws you in. It actually makes everybody, I think, a little bit of emotional watching the scene.
Yeah. She takes it to heart, because she starts to think about the lyrics and what they mean about her and her character.
Yeah. And speaking of her, you think this was a good movie for her?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a little strange that she's taking on a role where her character is like supposed to be the old one over the hill. Now, granted, she's playing against a 19-year-old guy. So yeah, compared to 19, I guess 32 is old. But Jennifer Lawrence is far from past her prime. You know what I mean? So that I thought was a little odd. Like if she was in her 40s, I mean, it would have made the movie weirder. But then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. But that to me was a little, I didn't like that as much, because I think that speaks to the old Hollywood machine. Like, and maybe that was their point, but like how female actresses are less valuable after their 30th birthday or something. I was like, I don't know about that.
Well, as we learned, one of our first facts from Pfil this month was that she had a baby. She'd been somewhat out of the spotlight for a little bit. I think this was more of a strategic move than we think. She probably saw the material and liked it and wanted to do it just for the comedy chops. But it also is a great way to come back into the Hollywood spotlight and play this sexy character that a lot of people are going to see and still remember, oh yeah, Jennifer Lawrence is sexy, funny, smart, her character is really put in the spotlight here. And I think not only does it work for this movie, I think it does help her, the next 2-3 film roles she's going to get.
But this is not the typical Jennifer Lawrence role. Aside from like Hunger Games and obviously the X-Men films, or, maybe not the first one, she did largely like awards contender type movies. If they didn't win, they were at least in the conversation, or at least you could tell they were taking a swing. And she did big, serious roles. Some of them were funny, like American Hustle and stuff like that. But for the most part, even though funny ones were like in award type movies, this is not that. It's fair to say a step down, or at least a step in a different direction. I think it is risky. I think it was bold, and I support it. I like it. I hope it turns out to be a good move for her.
I do too. I mean, I'm again going back to the subject of just an A-lister, her level, taking on a raunchy comedy like this doesn't happen all that often. You know?
Hardly ever.
And so I'm just glad to see that somebody had the guts to say, yep, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this movie. And if she doesn't go in completely, full on, the movie doesn't work. She has to absolutely go for it.
Well, she did a nude fight scene. I mean,
I know. And
doesn't
so
get much more committed.
Hats off to her. She committed fully to this. And I think because the chemistry that she has with Piercy in the movie, I mean, it works. It works for me.
All right, but let's talk about the ending without spoiling it. I thought the ending was a little unsatisfying. Where this movie leaves you, and I guess it's a little tough in comedy, so maybe that's not a fair criticism, but it doesn't exactly like wrap everything up in a bow. I was like, meh, with the ending.
So I wouldn't say unsatisfied, but I would say it didn't hit like the high marks that I would have hoped for the film. But this comes back to the problem, I would say, if I'm nitpicking here, is that the movie is just too formulaic all the way around. We sort of can see where it's going to go. Just exactly how it's going to end is kind of the question, what's up in the air. But I don't know, beat for beat, as we got into that last like 30 minutes, it was like, yeah, okay, we see what's going to happen here. Don't want to spoil everything, but characters find out certain things and it completely makes sense. Like I saw this coming, and I think the ending, it's tough to end something as bizarre as their relationship already was, having, a 31. I think if I did the math when she was trying to explain her age to Matthew Broderick's character, should mention Matthew Broderick plays the helicopter parent. When she was trying to explain how old she was to him, I believe the math comes out to 31 and a 19-year-old kid. It was going to be messy how they were going to leave it off anyways.
Yeah,
so.
This is true.
How about some jaw-dropping moments, Matt? I know you mentioned the nude fight scene. Anything else out there, or you want to elaborate a little bit more on the nude scene? I know you were nonstop talking about that. No,
I don't want to. I don't want to elaborate. And listen, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. Like, yeah, of course, I'm going to be interested in a nude scene like that, but that's not it. It's just funny. It's funny how much she totally committed to having a nude fight scene. It was like a wrestling match too. It was pretty intense. It was hilarious. Any others? Well, there is the punch scene.
Right. Well,
which
that's
is right in the trailer. Okay, go ahead then.
So that's the party scene that happens in this party scene with the Gen Zers. And I laughed, and I liked the movie, as I mentioned, because it was starting to make, a few points here about them, the Gen Zers, when I say them, filming everything, because they're offended by, a joke that she says. And she even says to them, you guys, I'm joking. I'm making a joke. Like, leave it alone. Then later gets punched in the throat. The parents are at the party. All hilarious. And one other note, I love that she goes into the party thinking she's going to fit in with this crowd.
Yeah.
She clearly thinks she's going in and no one's really going to call her out for being older at this party. And the minute she steps in there, somebody calls her ma'am.
Yeah.
Oh, is that hysterical?
Whose mom is that? Yeah.
It still made me laugh. I remember when I went back to my college, Illinois State, the beautiful Illinois State, with my buddy Neil. I think we went for like a basketball game years after we had graduated. And then we went to a bar, and I remember still thinking like, well, maybe we'll find out where the after party's at. In my mind, I'm still thinking like I'm a college kid, right? And I was at the bar, and somebody called me sir, and it was one of the first times, I was like, sir, what? Yeah. Call me dude,
Yeah. I'm like 28. Come on. Cut me some slack.
Yeah. Good stuff. Movie poster quote.
All right. Lewd, crude, and socially unacceptable. Thank God.
Thank God, indeed. I went with Jennifer Lawrence nails this role hard.
How many jaws, Rye?
I went dusting off the quarter jaw.
Oh, so did I.
2.75.
Wow.
2.75.
Get out of my brain, Rye, the movie guy. That's exactly where I landed. 2.75. This is not quite a 3-jaw movie. There are some major flaws. Well, let's call them minor flaws. There's flaws, okay? But
yes.
But this is definitely not middle of the road. It's a slice above. 2.75. It's a recommend for me.
It definitely recommend from me too. I was glad, like I said, I was worried waiting to see if I was off on this because I had already written down what I wanted to say about it and assigned my 2.75 jaws. And I thought, I'm going to pull up that Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm fearing that it was going to be like 16% rotten. Glad to say, at the time I checked it, we were at like 65% fresh. So I think that's where it should land. It should be fresh. So good stuff. No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence playing in theaters now. Jawheads, let us know what you think when you see it. Shoot us a tweet or our email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. Another big movie opening up on the 30th, Matt, is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's been 15 years since the last time we saw our favorite archaeologist crack his whip on the big screen. Back in 2008, when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, we already thought Harrison Ford was too old to make the adventure. That film left a bad taste in our mouths. No one wants to see Indy go out on a sour note. So here we are with a 5th and I think final installment. One major difference, no Steven Spielberg directing this time. Instead, we get James Mangold, who previously gave us Walk the Line, Logan, Ford v Ferrari, among others. Can Mangold right the ship for Dr. Jones, or should have this franchise been left in a tomb? I hit the theater to find out.
I'm retiring.
Well, in that case, what are we drinking?
Same for the goddaughter.
Dad told me you found something on a train during the war. A dial that could change the course of history.
Why are you chasing the thing that drove your father crazy? Don't move.
We need to get out of here.
Stop!
Sorry.
Helena! Dr. Jones, get him.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny opens up with a flashback to 1944. We get a de-aged Harrison Ford that I thought looked pretty good. However, the voice of the 80-year-old actor did not match the younger image on screen. Slight issue with that. What unfolds is a fun train sequence that features none other than Toby Jones, one of our favorite character actors here on the show. It also features Mads Mikkelsen, who plays a very convincing Nazi. Flash forward 25 years to 1969, and Indiana Jones is now elder and about to retire from his teaching job when one last adventure pops up. Let's start with the good news. No Shia LaBeouf. No silly action scenes.
Okay. I was just gonna say, is that good news? I mean, I didn't think it was terrible. Anyway, go on.
No silly action scenes that sees people swinging from the trees. 80-year-old Ford holds his own when it comes to the action on screen. He's aided by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who plays his goddaughter and someone who is also interested in finding the Dial of Destiny. The two of them had good chemistry together. Mads Mikkelsen is a fantastic villain. This overall felt like a return to form for Indiana Jones. However, the energy and movie magic that made the series so special is missing. The best way I can describe it is like seeing your favorite band when they are younger and rocking arenas compared to seeing that same band when they're older and still playing. Gone is the vitality that made them stand out. It's as if they are a cover band covering themselves. I think James Mangold and Harrison Ford gave us a great Indiana Jones adventure here. One that will play great years from now on a rainy Sunday when an Indiana Jones marathon is playing. But if you're hoping to be blown away like you were back in the 1980s, you're going to be a little disappointed. All that said, I'm still recommending Dial of Destiny and had fun with it. It just hit different this time.
They missed an opportunity to get Short Round back in this, you know?
Well, just won the Oscar, right?
I know. That would have been...
Should have got him in.
Freaking A, yeah.
But in a way, I'm glad that they didn't... I don't need all the nostalgia gimmicks.
Fair
Indiana
enough.
Jones itself is nostalgia. There's the moments of the hat and the whip that are going to pop up, and there's your nostalgia.
Do we get a shadow? Do we get the shadow of him putting on the hat?
No, I mean, not overly, like we're
Really?
specific looking right at it. But there's a lot of angles shot in a very Spielberg way that gives you the idea of, like, again, almost like it's a cover band covering themselves, as I described it. It's almost like, yeah, it is Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones, and Mangold pulled off what I think is a really fun adventure. It just felt like they're trying to make an Indiana Jones and not just be an Indiana Jones, if that makes sense the way I'm describing it.
Kind of, yeah. So I want to ask about the plot. The Dial of Destiny itself. Was this satisfactory? I mean, because they're not necessarily about the plot, right? It's about the adventure.
Right. We did a retro review of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull recently for our Patreons. And in there, I was talking about how I did like the actual adventure part of trying to find the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, it's got some good parts.
All of these Indiana Jones movies have to have this moment where they're trying to get the artifact. And I thought they did a great job in this one of actually trying to track down the dial, what the dial is possibly capable of. Everybody has their theories of what the dial can do, but no one's sure if it would actually work until they could put the dial together. Small spoiler, it's in two parts, so they need to find two different parts of the dial. And so once they can pull this off, would it actually work? No one's quite sure. It's just theory. And that's sort of the mystery of what's going to take place. Obviously avoiding spoilers here. And I was satisfied with the relic and the dial itself. I thought it was pretty damn cool.
All right, we talked a little bit about fan service and nostalgia, and you said we get the hat, we get the whip. Do any other elements, and you don't have to spoil what elements specifically, but do we get any other old characters, references?
Yes, I'm not going to spoil, but we do. We get some of everything. So there is a joke in here by Indiana Jones that literally had me laugh. I mean, harder than I've ever laughed at in Indiana Jones. And it's only funny, let me put it this way, if you've seen the other Indiana Jones movies. So yes, there are callbacks, there's nostalgia, there's the John Williams score.
Oh yeah.
It all works. Right. It all works as far as the nostalgia goes. That's why I'm saying you don't need Short Round. You don't need to bring back Kate Capshaw and all, leave it as is. They're giving us plenty of enough just seeing Indiana Jones on the screen one more time. So as far as nostalgia goes, that was I had my cup full, if you will.
Okay, you hinted at you think this is the last one. It seems pretty definitive with Harrison Ford being in his 80s.
The reason I don't want to ever say never is we're talking about a major franchise in Hollywood. And yes, Harrison Ford's 80, but he's in pretty damn good shape. So you never know with Indiana Jones. I would have, if you would have asked me if I thought Last Crusade was the end, I would have said that was the end. And then if you would have said Crystal Skull was the end, I would have said that's the end. I'm learning my lesson. So at this point, I'm just going to say I think more than likely, but I'm never saying 100% with Indiana Jones.
Do we recast Jones?
You asked this when we did our retro review, and I'm sticking with my answer. I'd rather them just come up with a new archaeologist and do their own thing and just leave Indiana Jones alone and more or less rip off the same idea, but come up with a new character and a new theme. And
we did that already. It was called
the whip.
National Treasure. I want Indiana Jones. I don't think Indiana Jones is Harrison Ford and Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. He gave a lot to the character. Other actors have played the character. It's time for another big screen actor to step in and take on Jones on the big screen. That's my 2 cents. If I get hate mail, that's fine. That's fine. That's just my opinion. How many
jaw-dropping moment?
Let's go to a jaw-dropping moment, Ryan. Do you got one?
So I mentioned John Williams' score. It's got to be one of his best. The guy is an absolute genius. The guy does, Star Wars, Superman, Jurassic Park, the Harry Potter themes, everything. The guy really is written.
He's a genius.
He's
a musical genius.
Unbelievable. But all of that said, when I hear the Indiana Jones theme going when the movie is playing, I thought to myself, this has got to be in his top 2 or 3. It's just so recognizable and so great. I love it. Yep. I love the theme. So that was a jaw-dropping moment, just hearing the theme of Indiana Jones. And there's this really fun tuk-tuk chase scene where Indiana Jones, and for the people out there that don't know what a tuk-tuk is, it's these little carts, usually a 3-wheeler with a wheel, 1 in the front and 2 in the back. And
it's like a rickshaw. Kind of.
Right. But it's a gas or an electric, in this case, a gas tuk-tuk. And I've been in a tuk-tuk in Thailand and almost died because the traffic over there is insane. But I don't think these tuk-tuks could go nearly as fast as Jones had these things going. But it's still a fun sequence all through these crazy streets, just like what you want out of Indiana Jones. Jumping from tuk-tuk to tuk-tuk.
Yeah, how does
he look there?
How does he look during the action sequences? Pretty good? Or?
I thought Mangold did a really good job here. There's no doubt it's a body double in every single action sequence. And there are maybe 1 or 2 where it's like, oh boy, that's almost came off cheesy, where it's like the guy's running, you got the back to Jones, clearly not Harrison Ford. He punches somebody, he jumps over something, and then he turns the corner. And the first time we see the face is after he turns the corner and the camera then catches him. And obviously it's a cut. And then it's like, oh, it's Indiana Jones, it's Harrison Ford. 1 or 2 of those where it looked cheesy. But in general, when they're jumping around the tuk-tuks and doing the action, creative edits to make it look like it's always Harrison Ford doing his own stunts. They did pretty well there.
Okay. You got a movie poster quote?
I went with a better send-off than Crystal Skull.
Thank God. How many Jaws?
2.5 Jaws. 2.5 Jaws for Indiana Jones. I do think that it's not going to play probably as great right now. I just have the feeling that everybody's so pumped sometimes for a big movie like this that maybe expectations are almost too high. Mm-hmm. But I think in the long run, going back to like in a few years when they're playing a Indiana Jones marathon, this is going to fit perfect with the other 3. Not
Crystal Skull.
Right. But fits perfect with the other 3. So I'm happy with that.
That's good. At least it fits in with the Jones canon.
Indiana Jones opens up on the 30th. Jawheads. Let us know what you think when you see it. Write us a tweet at CinemaJaw or an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. We didn't throw one thing into the fish tank, and so I'm going to give Pfil something to work on because you are really hung up on this Jennifer Lawrence nude scene.
I am not.
Just double check if it was a body double or if it was Jennifer Lawrence. What do we got here, Phil? We know it's a body double jumping from tuk-tuk to tuk-tuk for Harrison Ford. Was it a body double for Jennifer Lawrence on the beach? I'm just wondering, Matt.
I already know.
Ooh, he knows the answer. Well, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to find out the answer from Phil. And we have a review of Extraction 2, plus some Harrison Ford movie trivia. Stick with us. Let's all go to the lobby. We close out Jennifer Lawrence month with a clip from American Hustle. In this clip, she just blew up her microwave by putting metal in the microwave. And here comes Christian Bale to find out what happened, and comedy ensues.
I told you not to put metal in the science oven. What'd you do that for?
Don't make such a big deal. Just get another one.
I don't want another one. I want the one that Carmine gave me.
Oh, Carmine. I want the one that Carmine gave me. Carmine. Why don't you just marry Carmine? Get a little gold microwave and put it on a chain around your neck. You want to be more like Carmine? Why don't you build something like he does? Instead of all your empty deals, it's just like your fucking science oven. You know, I read that it takes all of the nutrition out of our food. It's empty, just like your deals. Empty.
That's bullshit.
It's not bullshit. I read it in an article. Look, by Paul Berdure. Bring something into this house that's gonna take all the nutrition out of our food and then light our house on fire? Thank God for me.
And we are back on CinemaJaw. Before we talk Extraction 2, and before we play some trivia, we threw one big question into the fish tank right before we went to break. Let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you so much for letting me out. We did only have one. It was really great. Ryan did that thing where he grabbed a little bit, a teeny pinch of fish food and sprinkled it into the fish tank for me. Not a lot, but enough to satiate my belly, okay? And we love that. I'm so happy and so grateful. It was something that was uncomfortable to look up because the question is, was Jennifer Lawrence nude in the No Hard Feelings beach fight scene? And I'm not like with it enough to think things through like this. So my gut reaction was Jennifer Lawrence nude, and I'm sorry, Jennifer. I'm very sorry.
Hope you had Safe Search turned on.
Never. How do you think I get this research? You think this comes from IMDb? Don't answer that. But yes, that was her. She was full front. There was no body double. That was Jennifer Lawrence. I guess she was in an interview saying that she was more comfortable doing stuff with her body since Red Sparrow. Yeah, that's just Jennifer.
I forgot about Red Sparrow. Yeah, that was.
It's forgettable. That's why.
I actually enjoyed Red Sparrow. Thought it was kind of like a sexy spy noir kind of thing. It was good. All right, I'm not going to say it was good. I'm going to say I enjoyed it.
Well, we found out that it was Jennifer Lawrence. No body double used.
Yeah.
While we're in the fish tank, next week on the show, Matt, vacation. CinemaJaw is on vacation. So
I thought you meant we were going to review the vacation movies.
No. No new Jaw next week. Maybe we'll play an old one for the Jawheads. I was talking to someone earlier today, and I brought up that we had Colt Cabana on the show when we did our live show at Steppenwolf Theater.
Wow. Yeah. That was a long time ago.
Maybe we'll play that for the Jawheads out of the archives.
We haven't done like a rerun on the feed in years. Like years. Like
There's
if we take
probably so many new listeners that never heard us do that live show at Steppenwolf, and maybe it would be interesting to play.
Okay. Done.
That's just a thought.
I kind of want to listen to it first to make sure it's not totally crap.
It was a fun episode from what I remember.
Yeah, didn't you get clobbered over the head with a sign?
That was me.
That was you. Yeah, Cole Cabana, who's a wrestler, clobbered you over the head. with the CinemaJaw sign.
And that
I
was
was
not
about to say-
staged.
If this was me, I definitely must have gone to the hospital and forgotten it because I don't. Maybe I did still get clobbered because I don't remember Ryan getting hit either.
No, I remember we had that CinemaJaw sign, and the thing I remember about it is that Colt asked if he could come out with the sign, and I was like, oh yeah, fine. Then we said we would introduce him because he's a professional wrestler. We would introduce him like wrestlers get introduced, thinking this is funny. He comes out, doesn't tell me he's going to, and just whacks me over the head with the sign. This is how the podcast starts. Like, what the hell?
Oh, it was funny for me, you know. Like, I still need to get my revenge for you clotheslining me. So,
yeah. Well, it's a thought. But Jawheads, we will be back the week after. But we got to have a summer break in here every once in a while.
Hey, man, we work hard at the show.
We like our barbecues too, Jawheads. Remember that.
Yes.
Remember that.
Yes.
So many times we like double up and we never leave the Jawheads hanging, but you know, once in a while we take a break. It's you don't want to burn out, you know?
This is true. This is true. All right. That was everything in the fish tank?
That's all we got, baby.
All right. Jump back in there, Phil.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan. Extraction 2. And no, I'm not talking about your latest trip to the dentist. Back in April of 20... That's a good one, right? Back in April of 2020. Remember that? The whole world was upside down. Suddenly, we were recording the podcast via this new thing called Zoom, and no one was seeing anything in the theaters. Who knew when we would again? It was into this hellscape that an action film entitled Extraction was born. It starred Chris Thor Hemsworth, and while I don't remember it all that well, I remember that it was highly decent, with some good humor and great action, with a decent dose of heart, and was one of the better straight-to-streaming pandemic films of that year. A minor surprise hit, if you will. 3 years later, the pandemic has been officially declared over. Do we still need a shoot-'em-up type escape? Now that we can go to the theater to see an action movie on the big screen, can a stay-at-home Netflix movie blow us out of our seats? Can Extraction 2 have anything at all to do or say that wouldn't feel cheesy and gratuitous? Ryan and I fired up the big N to find out.
Go. But you survived. You fought your way back. You just have to find out why. We got a contract.
Here's the synopsis, Rye. It's quite simple. Back from the brink of death, Commando Tyler Rake, played by Hemsworth, embarks on a dangerous mission to save a ruthless gangster's imprisoned family. Rye, I have a lot of positive things to say about this movie, so I'd like to begin with what you didn't like about Extraction 2.
Whoa, you want to start with a negative?
Yeah, because
All right.
I feel like we're going to heap on the praise, so let's get the bad stuff out of the way.
Okay, I don't like to talk negative right away, but I'll do it if that's what you want, Matt. I think what holds me back on these Extraction movies is, and I do like them, so I'm even going to let the Jawheads know now. I am positive on this, but I don't connect emotionally to the characters involved in Extraction. Chris Hemsworth and his team, I don't gel with them. I just don't connect in a way that I'm rooting in any way for the characters that much. As much as I appreciate the action on screen, I don't feel like I'm rooting for the characters like I do in other films. I watch them and I am entertained. Don't get me wrong. You said you don't remember the first film very much. I remember liking it, and I remember that there's really well choreographed scenes that start at in an apartment complex in there.
Yeah, that chase was great.
But I'm foggy about the characters, and I think that's goes back to not connecting to this emotionally. That's why I think I don't remember all that much about Extraction, the first Extraction to begin with. I think we're missing that connection as well made as these films are.
Well, I got to disagree with you a little bit. I actually thought that they dialed up the emotion 2 clicks, exactly 2 clicks this time around. Hemsworth is a good enough actor with just enough emotional range to give us a believable damaged soul. So when the emotional beats do hit, I felt them. I felt the love and the trust that he has with his team. I felt the grief that he feels when people when he loses people throughout the movie. And at the end, the emotional payoff for me had weight, had gravity, largely because of Hemsworth and the rest of the cast to boot. But I thought that he brought the goods.
See, I not at all. I mean, the exact opposite for me, to be completely honest. I watch these movies. I'm completely involved in the film as far as shocked actually with how much work and practice must have went into some of these scenes because they're so well choreographed, from the camera movement to hundreds of extras to Hemsworth in the fight scenes. Excellent. Everything across the board. Like, wow, top-notch stuff. And I end the movie and I'm like, if it hit me emotionally, I'd be like, wow, these are some incredible movies. These are like Jason Bourne. These are like John Wick. But I'm not willing quite yet. I'm not willing quite yet to put the Extraction movies on that level, simply because I don't connect like I do to the characters in those other films.
I would say this is going to be an unpopular thing. Not as good as Bourne. Agree with you. Doesn't quite have the emotional gravity of a Bourne. But I kind of connected with this a little bit more than John Wick. And it's interesting to make this comparison because the Wick series are these movies' spiritual siblings. They're both directed by a stuntman turned director. And they both have really stylized action sequences. But the difference is the Wick universe got so top heavy and cartoonish and unbelievable and disconnected from our reality that it was still really fun to visit. And I had a blast with those movies, especially the third one, which I think is the best of the series, Parabellum. But they left me, feeling like, okay, that was fun, but it wasn't real. The Extraction movies are set in a world much more closely resembling our own world. Like when an attack happens in a high rise downtown in a city, police show up. Characters go to jail after their, fight scenes and stuff like that. It's much more grounded, and for that, I connected with it more.
That's interesting. I do know what you mean as far as the world being much closer to resembling our own. And I appreciate that as much. I do think, boy, I can't even remember the name of that movie. Oh, The Gray Man with...
Yeah, that was fun.
Who was the star? Yeah, it was Gosling?
Yeah.
Yeah, The Gray Man also was one of these kind of films, very similar. And I remember having an issue with that in the sense that it's like, it's too big. There's too many people dying, and the action sequences are... Right. It's just so over the top that it can't happen, right? It's unbelievable.
But this didn't feel that way, I thought.
I do agree with that, but that doesn't mean necessarily that I connected with the characters emotionally.
All right, fair enough.
I do believe that you're right, that it resembles our world more, but that doesn't mean I connected myself emotionally to the characters any more than the other ones.
Is this a franchise we're hoping to see a third out of? They do strongly hint, now that there's been a second, that there will indeed be a third, but it's just a hint.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about Netflix looking for their franchise.
It seems like
I think
maybe they found it here.
Yeah, and it's this, and it's the Enola Holmes.
Yeah.
There's no doubt there's going to be another Enola Holmes, which is great, I think, for Netflix. And I think there'll definitely be a third Extraction film. I'm okay with it too. Again, I just wish I cared about these characters a little bit more. However, the filmmaking, and if we could talk about these action sequences a little bit, because the filmmaking is really top notch here, and I am absolute sucker for really well choreographed and filmed action sequences where you know exactly what's going on. And this film has plenty of it.
Sam Hargrave is the director, and the Russo brothers penned this film.
Right. The Russo brothers are involved, obviously, yes. There's some really great long takes with, tons of action going on. And I'm a sucker for those. Because then you know how much they must practice where everybody has to be, where the camera has to go. It's always a fluid motion, and they pull it off
the train
meticulously.
Sequence.
It's great. So.
Yeah. There's a sequence where he pops. They're escaping in a train, and he attacks a helicopter with a 50 caliber machine gun, one of these belt fed machine guns, and it's breathtaking. And then I don't want to spoil anything, but it's an extended action sequence on a train. The whole thing it worked for me in a big way. And then some of the fight scenes are amazing, just as good as anything John Wick has to offer.
I agree. It's funny because he doesn't use a handgun here very much, and I think that's probably on purpose, because if he was using a handgun, it would be
too wicky,
too John Wicky, because he uses a machine gun here instead in most of his scenes, and then obviously
and a knife.
And a knife, and then some hand-to-hand combat, much like John Wick does. But if all of a sudden he picked up a pistol and he was doing the same thing that he was doing with the machine gun, we'd be like, well, Jesus, this is John Wick. It's literally the same exact thing. But for some reason, he goes machine gun, and it's slightly different. And he's more military-esque than John Wick. There are slight differences here. He seems to have more of the military background. But if I'm absolutely stunned by a scene, shocked. How about how they lifted the training sequence from Rocky IV, where Rocky is in Russia in the snow, which is one of our favorite. It's one of our favorite montages of all time, is Rocky training in Russia. There is a scene where, Chris Hemsworth was near death at the end of the first Extraction, but he survived. But near death, could barely walk. He's in a hospital. They show him. He's in rehabilitation.
He's
barely
intubated.
can put one foot over the other. Finally gets to a cabin. I think it's the same cabin that Rocky stayed at in Rocky IV. I'm not positive, but possibly. And he starts to do outdoor stuff like Rocky. And this is how he gets his
chopping
strength
wood,
back.
pushing boulders on a sled.
Oh, my goodness. That was literally lifted right out of Rocky IV, and I couldn't be happier for it. I thought that was hysterical, and I enjoyed it, having a little bit of Rocky IV in my Extraction.
It didn't occur to me that it was very Rocky, but it was satisfying. It was oddly satisfying, and now I know why. So good on you. Good observation.
But yes, the fight scene's fantastic. So my jaw-dropping moment, if we were going to go on, I see we got a bullet point that you have. I want to push till the end of the review, and that's should Extraction 2 have come out in the theater?
Yeah, let's talk about it. But go ahead and do your jaw-dropping moment.
Put a pin in that one, and let's put that at the end of the review, because
let's pull the pin on that one.
I have some heavy thoughts on it.
Explode later. Go ahead.
My jaw-dropping moment actually takes place right before your train sequence. In theory, it's actually one long, absolutely awesome action sequence that I would say, I didn't have a stopwatch on me, but if I was taking a guess, it is about 20 to 25 minutes of nonstop action. It ends with the train sequence, but that entire thing starts with what Extraction is about. Extraction is getting somebody out of a dangerous area, and in this case, they're trying to get somebody out of jail. And that jail sequence, at first it seems to be going pretty well, and they're not noticed, and they're hoping not to be noticed. But guess what? The alarm sounds, and all kinds of people are after them. And there is a fight scene with literally hundreds of extras. Hundreds. And there's so much action going on. The long take reminded me of what they were going for in Atomic Blonde, with Charlize Theron getting thrown around the stairs and that long, fist fight sequence. There's clearly some cuts when characters move in front of the camera. I can see where they sort of cheated, but it's supposed to give you the idea that this is like one long 12-minute, fight scene of them trying to come out of the prison. Then obviously they eventually make their way to the train. But that prison sequence, top-notch action, man. Whew.
Hell yeah. No arguments. Really all the action in the movie. There wasn't a single part where I was like, that wasn't so good. I liked it all. I really did. My dropping moments was the Hilo fight from the train. So why don't we just switch right to movie poster quote?
All right, movie poster quote. I went with, what I extracted was an entertaining 2 hours that lacked emotional connection.
Man, it's sad that you didn't get that emotional connection. I did. My movie poster quote was both a throwback and a fresh take that reminds us that the action genre has fight left in it. Bit long.
One of your long ones. Yeah, one of your long ones.
It's okay. I get a blurb. I forgot to tell you. Yeah, they give me a whole blurb on the back of the poster.
I love it. I'm going 2.5 Jaws
Wow.
for Extraction 2. So I am positive on this one.
I'm going 3. I'm going 3 Jaws. I liked it. I liked it a
So
lot.
you're all in on Extraction. You're definitely looking forward to Extraction 3 then.
I am looking forward to Extraction 3. Listen, if you're a fan of action movies, and let's talk about the theater too. If you're a fan of action movies, this is top notch. It's right up there with a John Wick. I think anybody who's a fan of those films would really like Extraction. So should it have been in a theater?
Okay. So I have major thoughts on this. And so I needed a little bit more time to talk about this. Should have Extraction 2 been in the theater? Yes, the answer is. For guys like me that like the big screen experience, one, it would have been nice to see all that work that was done on Extraction 2 on the biggest screen I can see it on. I would have appreciated
Feeling
that.
those explosions in the Dolby Atmos theater, yeah.
Yeah. But my reason I wanted to put a pin in this and talk about it now is the larger issue that I think Netflix has on its hands here. Here, Netflix seemed to be the absolute giant, and it's so interesting how things have swung here. The way we feel about the theater experience versus streaming versus theater. With the pandemic, and we were doing the podcast, we said it here when everything started going to streaming, and then Warner Brothers announced that they were going to do a full year of streaming and in theater at the same time to see if that worked. There was all this stuff, and we had discussions on it. We said, well, it's sort of the end of the big theater experience. Everything's going this way. It's all about streaming. What we didn't see coming was when we came out of the pandemic and Warner Brothers announced that, hey, and Disney was doing the same thing. And both Warner Brothers and Disney said that wasn't a viable option. It's not working. And they'd done polls, and they realized that people actually value streaming a movie that played in the theaters more so than something that was made directly for the streamer. There's something about this was big. It was playing in the theater. Now we want to see this movie for the people that didn't get a chance, parents that have kids, whatever the reason. And they want to watch it at home, as opposed to being something that is made just for streaming. And at this time, all the studios now, when you see a trailer, it'll end or it'll say at one point, only in theaters. It's a sell point now. It's a big movie. It's almost like this puts it in a new category. It's a theater movie. It's not a streaming movie. It's a theater movie. It's another little tactic to get you excited. And Netflix already was just fighting this the whole time. And I think they're almost in some ways, getting left behind and becoming the streamer that's doing the direct to DVD or direct to digital movies in a way.
Except this isn't that. This movie
this was not that. I'm saying the perception of it though.
I agree.
So to give Jawheads an idea here, these big studios, Warner Brothers, Disney, they'll release anywhere between 8 and 15 movies a year. Netflix is releasing 50 movies this year. We do this podcast every single week. I'm behind the scenes in charge of sort of looking at what movies to review. Off the top of my head, I think this is the second Netflix movie of the entire year that we've talked about.
I believe you're correct.
And the first one was The Pale Blue Eye back in January or February.
Right, when nothing was
I don't
out.
know what the crap is. And Matt, I look at this every week. Is there a Netflix movie we should look at? And then I look, who is this? What is this movie? And in my mind, I'm like, my God, they're becoming the direct-to-digital platform. It's like, I don't even think of going to what's the new Netflix movie? This was big, don't get me wrong, and mainly because we saw Extraction, the first one.
Right, and everybody
But I
remembers
think they have
it
a problem on their hands. You know?
I do too. I think that if we do see an Extraction 3, it'll probably come out in the theater. Like, why wouldn't they put it out in the theater? I get it. That's not their platform, but they still make money as the studio, and then they will get more eyes on them on the stream.
I agree. So here, I've thought about this, and here were a couple of ideas that I had. If somebody working for Netflix is listening to this podcast.
They listen. Oh, yeah, man. The CEO listens.
So a couple of things. One, they always have to lean into the film festivals because that gets some buzz. If they play like in the early part of the year,
right, in theaters,
get at least 4 or 5 movies at Sundance. It gets some buzz. It gets, people talking about it, and then those come out in the following weeks. And then obviously do that at the end of the year with Toronto and so forth. But they also do this event that they call Ta-Dum, which is supposed to be the sound that it makes when the Netflix app pulls up. Ta-dum.
Ta-dum, okay.
So they call it their Ta-Dum event. And they do it somewhere, and I don't know exactly what it is all involved, but they basically play like previews. Throw it away, Netflix, and change it up to this. This is what I would suggest. Go to your 10 or 15 biggest markets in the country, right around like May, when you got all these movies. Because if they're not going to put them in theaters, they seem to be against this. At least do this. Go to your 10 to 15 biggest markets and do basically like a Netflix festival where they play 4 movies and they invite the critics and press from those markets, and then also fill the theater with subscribers and fans, and get everybody tweeting and buzzing about it. A lot of critics like me, you would go on there, Rotten Tomatoes, people would start talking about it. At least it makes those movies feel like they're actual movies. You know what I mean? Like they've played in a festival, they've played in theaters where people are seeing them and talking about them. And I think that would help people then be excited and know about their films a little bit more than just popping on Netflix and being like, what is this? Should we watch it?
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I don't say this often, but that was a good idea, Ryan. That's a really good idea. I mean, yeah, it's like you thought that through a little bit.
I did. And one other thing that they could do that they did do last year with Glass Onion, the Knives Out movie. Glass Onion played for 1 week. They actually promoted it very heavy, and they did like a 10-day, they called it a 10-day theatrical run around Thanksgiving. So do that again around Thanksgiving, and then that came out at the end of the year. Like it gave a reason to go see it. Like I have Netflix, but you know what? I can see it a month early in the theater. But do that also around, say, the 4th of July. They have this movie coming out with Gal Gadot, Heart of Stone, I think it's called. Also going to be one of these kind of action movies. Play it for 10 days around the 4th of July, and then have it come out on Netflix in August. Stuff like that where it's, oh, okay, it was a theater movie and now it's on Netflix. That, I think it would really help than just putting it on the streamer.
Are you listening, Netflix? Take notes. Take notes.
There you go. That's why I wanted to save it at the end. I had a rant. Yep. I'm off my soapbox.
Jeez, man. Could have saved that for the next time you won a cinema war.
All right. Extraction 2 is playing on Netflix. If you see it, Jawheads, let us know what you think. Let's play some trivia. Let's end this one.
I've been waiting.
We're going into summer vacation where we're off for a week, and I want Matt not to be stumped. I don't want him, pissed off. So I hope you do well here, Matt.
All right. Hopefully you threw me a couple of softballs. Let's go.
I actually didn't. We're talking Harrison Ford. I figured I got to make these tough. Harrison Ford movie trivia. Matt needs 3 or more not to be stumped. Here we go. Ready?
Ready.
Question 1. How many Oscar nominations does Harrison Ford have? 0, 1, 2, or 5?
0, 1, 2, or 5. Okay, Harrison Ford. Wow. I got to imagine he's got at least 1. So that's my guess. 1.
That is correct. He has been nominated 1 time for lead actor in Witness.
Yep.
There you go.
That makes a lot of sense.
Matt is on the board. 1 question correct. Number 2, Matt. Harrison Ford starred in 1 film directed by Robert Zemeckis. It co-starred Michelle Pfeiffer. Name the film. We did a whole month celebration. A whole month celebration of Robert Zemeckis. Final answer?
Working Girl.
That
Regarding
is
Henry?
incorrect.
Okay.
One more guess?
Melanie Griffith?
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, Michelle Pfeiffer.
We're looking for What Lies Beneath.
Yeah. I was thinking Melanie Griffith for some weird reason. All right, go on.
Damn it. Matt is 1 for 2. Question 3. Harrison Ford appears in 2... Okay, I meant to preface this question with, don't just blurt out an answer. Think about it, okay?
All right.
Harrison Ford appears in 2 films directed by George Lucas. Only 2. Name them both. Don't blurt it out. Think about it.
Okay. So, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg collaborated on the Jones movies.
Yes, this is directed by George Lucas.
American Graffiti.
That is correct.
And directed shit. What's the other one? Oh, wait. Directed by George Lucas. A New Hope.
He nailed it. Star Wars, A New Hope, and American Graffiti. I thought it was sort of a trick question.
It is, because he doesn't direct Empire Strikes Back.
And he doesn't direct Return of the Jedi, and he doesn't direct any of the obviously later films that The Force Awakens. So, and he doesn't direct the Indiana Jones. I thought it was tricky.
It's
but all
tricky.
right.
Definitely.
Not
American
tricky for
Graffiti,
Matt.
you got to give me props for that one.
Yep. Matt is 2 out of 3, so he only needs 1 more correct. Question 4, Matt. Harrison Ford appears in 1 film directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Name the movie.
Wow. Harrison Ford, Francis Ford Coppola. I wonder if there's any familial relation there, Ford and Ford Coppola. Because I don't think it's his middle name. I think it's like a hyphenated last name. I could be wrong.
You're wrong.
Am I? It's not. That was Ridley Scott. Who directed? I don't know.
Your best bet is to think of a Francis Ford Coppola movie. This is a tough one.
Apocalypse Now.
We're looking for The Conversation.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I got to watch that movie. I've never seen it.
That was a tough one. So it comes down to this. Last question. He needs this correct not to be stumped. Here we go, Matt. Hopefully I wrote this question so that you understand it. Here we go. Besides Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford stars in 2 other sequels. And by sequels, I mean he was in the first film and the sequel, like in both movies.
I understand what a sequel is.
Okay.
Thanks.
But I mean, he starred in the original and the sequel.
Got it.
He did this in 2 other instances, not Indiana Jones and Star Wars. Name either one of those instances.
Just one?
Yeah.
Blade Runner.
Okay. Yep. Any guess on the second one?
No. I'm really glad I came up with Blade Runner.
It was the Jack Ryan series, The Patriot and Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
It's funny because he seems like Mr. Sequel, because he's in these big franchises like Indiana Jones and Star Wars. But then after that, it's really just Blade Runner and the Jack Ryan. And that's it.
Yeah.
All the rest are one-off movies.
Did you ever see Regarding Henry?
Never.
I like that movie.
I need to catch up with a few Harrison Ford. In fact, he was in The Mosquito Coast, which was turned into a series on Apple TV. I've never seen the movie. It's Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford, and this must have been like mid-'80s. And it's playing on 35 millimeter at the Gene Siskel Film Center next week. And I was planning to go see it. Going to hit up Rebecca Fons and say, I'll be over there.
Nice. Yeah, let me know what you think, man. Maybe I'll try to join you or something.
check it out. So Matt was not stumped this week. You get to go on vacation, a winner, Matt.
I always go on vacation a winner, Ryan. Whether or not I win on CinemaJaw, I'm a winner inside.
You know who else is a winner?
Wow.
Phil, me, and Phil.
Well, there's something, all right.
That's who we want to thank first, Phil.
Oh, of course. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Happy 4th, early, of course, for you two, but happy 4th of July Jawheads as well. We're going to miss you guys on vacation. Well, Matt's not because Matt's a winner, but me and Ryan will.
Hey, I still miss the Jawheads, man. Everybody be careful with those fireworks.
And the Jawheads we miss the most are Patreons. Thank you for supporting the show. If you want to join us on Patreon, go over to patreon.com/CinemaJaw. We're doing some fun things over there, and it really is a great way to support the show. It would mean the world to us. The other way to support the show is by leaving us a review.
Yeah, wherever you're listening to this, take your phone out of your pocket, click leave a review, especially if it's Apple Podcasts, because those help, and it's free, and you can tell us we suck. It's okay. Just be honest, and we prefer 5 stars, but whatever you got in you, just drop a few stars. We want to hear it. Let us know how to make it better.
That's what we want. We want to make the Jaw better.
Always.
We love doing it.
Always.
Absolutely. Until next week, I'm Ryan, the movie guy.
And I'm Matt K.
And keep on jawing about the movies.